What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and I have an awesome video for you tonight. We actually have the Iowa rankings here. We want to see what is actually happening in Iowa, not based upon some poll of 65 people or 600 people, like what the media reports on. We're going to actually take a look at the Google and the YouTube search volume. So what we did is we took each one of the candidates' names and we put it into Google Trends to see who was actually number one. So with that being said, if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam, and for those of you who are returning, two things. First of all, you had better be pressing that thumbs up button. Second of all, it's good to freaking see you. Now, let's get into it. Okay, so what we did is we pulled up Google Trends. As you can see, we put in the search terms across the top here. Google Trends tracks all of the web search that's done by Google across the web. And you can pull it up by country or worldwide or in a specific state. So what we did is we pulled up the United States for each one of these candidates' names over the past 12 months, and we looked at it on the web. And then we looked at three different time periods. We looked at the 12-month, the 90-day, and the 30-day. And we stacked ranked the candidates 1 through 10 in each one of these time periods, and then we take an average across all three. It's not an equally weighted average, but we took an average where 25% of the total comes from the 12-month, 25% comes from the 3-month, and 50% comes from the 1-month. And the reason that we do that is because the 1-month has the most valuable data. Stuff that happened over 12 months ago there's still value there, but the most recent data is the most valuable data. So that is why we take that average there. And we looked at it on Google, and then we looked at it on YouTube. And why do we use Google and YouTube? Because those are the two biggest sites on the planet, where if you have all of this attention there, people are actually searching for something. Now, let's just quickly contrast that to what happens now. We have sites like Real Clear Politics, which aggregate polling data to try to get an understanding of what's happening. But if you actually look at any one of these polls, you can see that there might be several hundred or a couple thousand people that respond, right? And the method might be from a cell phone. Like, good fucking chance getting me to respond to a poll if you're going to have me, if you're going to call me. There's this much probability that I'm going to respond to your poll. Even if you do get me on the phone, I'm just going to hang up. Like, there's no way you're going to take my time to answer some fucking poll. And so what I think about it is like, if your boss is standing over your shoulder, what is your behavior? Versus your boss is on vacation, what is your behavior? We want the most authentic representation of what people's actual behavior is. Now, the boss over your shoulder is similar to a poll. There's so many different biases that are captured when you do a poll, whether it's the polling method, the question, the representation, the sampling method from the population. We're supposed to expect that a poll of 1,500 people, like if you look at the one from YouGov, The Economist, that was done a couple weeks ago, with 1,500 people that the media reports on, is supposed to represent what the collective of 350 million Americans think. You guys get to decide that, but that is the purpose of this. So we took this on YouTube and we did this on Google, stack ranked in each one of these three different time periods, and we put that all into a spreadsheet and came up with this. The top 5 candidates in Iowa. I pulled up the search volume here for the United States, but if you just look in here, this is actually where the data comes from. It's from the Iowa. You get to see the search volume for Iowa specifically. So that is what this is. And the top 5 candidates tied. This is a first for Joe Biden. Tied at number 1 is Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. Number 3, Pete Buttigieg. Number 4 is Andrew Yang. And number 5 is Elizabeth Warren. So kind of interesting here too is we're going to compare this to the Real Clear Politics data. So let's jump over here. We have the Iowa Democratic Presidential Caucus, right? And we've got one from the Iowa State University, DM Register, CNN. Well, that's probably biased. CBS News, YouGov, and these they put together and they gave this ranking right here in the top. And what I did is I just took that ranking and their placing, and I put it into our spreadsheet here so we get to see the difference, right? But first of all, let's dive into the data. So on Google here, you can see that the score is made up of the 25% from the 12-month, right here, 25% from the 3-month, and 50% from the 1-month. And that gives us the overall score for YouTube and Google here. And then to come up with the overall is 50% from YouTube and 50% from Google. And we can see here that Joe Biden's had a big uptick. And if we look here, there's been a big uptick. So I don't know if he's doing more advertising or what's going on. If you guys have some knowledge of this, let me know down below in the comments. Use the hashtag Stolt, the name of the channel. And when at the end of the videos, when we do our Q&A, I can actually get into my YouTube analytics and I can search for hashtag Stolt to pull up your comment, because you guys leave some awesome shit in the comment section. So this way I can actually talk about your comment at the end of the video if you want that. So that's kind of interesting. He moved up 2 spots, which was a little surprising, but something's clearly going on where Joe Biden's captured people's attention recently. So I'm curious to know what is actually taking place there, because he's moved up. Let's take a look at Andrew Yang. He's also moved up 2 spots. Pete Buttigieg has moved up 2 spots. Tulsi Gabbard has lost 4 spots. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but there's been a tremendous downward movement in the amount of interest for Tulsi over the last, since we did the ranking about a month ago. So this data is from December 8th, and the last time we did it was about 3 weeks beforehand. So she's had a big downward trend in what's happening. I'm not sure why or what's going on, but people in Iowa are just not looking for Tulsi, and that will be interesting to watch how this plays out. Now, if we go in a little bit more to the micro data here, we get to see on Pete Buttigieg for the 3-month and the 1-month, he's moved up to number 1 in both of those spots. Kind of interesting. Andrew Yang's moved up 1 spot. Look here. It looks like there could be the beginning of a trend for Bernie. On Google, he has been losing ground in Iowa. He was first at the 12-month, second at the 90-day, and third at the 1-month. So I don't know what's happening with Bernie. If he's just, there's so much variety of opinion out there of these different candidates, right? We have 10 candidates. This type of thing has never happened before. So there's such a dispersion of the attention to the Democratic Party and just in general. This could be a trend. We'll stay tuned. If you press that subscribe button and that little bell notification, YouTube can notify you next time I post the update ranking for this. Joe Biden, been up and down. Elizabeth Warren, nothing here. Tulsi, she's been losing ground as we mentioned. Another interesting thing here is Tom Steyer is actually ranked number 7. So he comes in, he's jumped up from being completely oblivious to having a little bit of attention. Let's go over to YouTube. Pete does not do nearly as well on YouTube whatsoever. Yang does pretty well. He's in the top 3 there overall. Bernie, again, it looks like he's been losing a little bit of ground both on Google and on YouTube. This looks like a clear trend for Bernie, but we'll see how this next ranking comes out probably in a couple weeks. Joe Biden, that's super interesting. I was not expecting him to move up. He moved up on Google and he moved up on YouTube. That's kind of interesting. Elizabeth Warren holding steady. Tulsi beat Elizabeth Warren on YouTube, but I think that Elizabeth Warren understands the internet is what you need to win, even though she's losing ground. But she has, in terms of her YouTube channel versus Elizabeth Warren's YouTube channel, it looks like she puts a little bit more effort into it. From the elementary perspective that I've taken on it, I haven't done a deep dive on either one of their channels. If you'd like to see that, let me know down below in the comments, and don't forget to use hashtag Stolt. Let's take a look at the comparison between everybody here. So I'm just going to pull this up to take a look at some of this. So we see that the biggest area that they're getting wrong, this is the Real Clear Politics data that we pulled right from here. The biggest area that they're getting wrong is Amy Klobuchar. They think that Amy Klobuchar is number 5 in Iowa, and she is not even like registering. Amy has not like registered at all. I don't think Amy has really a presence online. I don't think she even has a YouTube channel. This is not her YouTube channel that we're ranking here. This is just the search volume on YouTube for these characters' names, but she is not nearly in the top 5. I'm not sure how she could have possibly ranked top 5 when there's just not much relevance there whatsoever. Even on her website ranking, she's not even close. She's not come close to the top 5 in any one of our rankings. We do a power ranking where we do it on a national level, both the Google search volume, the YouTube search volume, the website, a bunch of social factors in terms of growth rate and whatnot relative to the other candidates, and their donations, the awareness in terms of hashtag usage and stuff, to try to really grasp what is understanding, what the pulse of America is in terms of the collective interest of what Americans are paying attention to. Another interesting thing here is they're way off on Joe Biden too. He's got 1 versus 4 here, so they're off by 3 spots with Joe Biden. I still don't see Joe Biden coming anywhere close to getting the nomination, but could be wrong. I guess time will tell. I just don't see Joe Biden getting the nomination whatsoever. They also have Pete at 2nd, and he's actually 3rd. Yang, they have him at 6th, and he's at 4th. They have Amy beating Yang. What is going on here? She is really not the same amount of awareness or attention at all compared to Andrew Yang. A couple more down here is Elizabeth Warren. They have her at 3rd, where she's actually at 5th. Tulsi, they have her at 8th, and she's at 6th. So you get to see where the collective, where the market, where mainstream media thinks is happening, but then you get to understand what people are actually searching for, what people are actually interested in, and like, why do you go to Google or YouTube? To search for things that you're interested in, right? If you're not interested in it, you're not going to be searching for it. And that's what we're really trying to capture here. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. Again, if you use the hashtag Stolt, I can pull up your comment just like this. So this is from Mathieu Perejou, however you say your last name, and I apologize for slaughtering your name. Thank you so much for the support in the comment, though. I think it's because voters have chosen their candidate. Now, if we can get past the fake polls, Yang's support is split with Tulsi. Bernie has already got his base. The undecided voters are still deciding if Bernie is worth another look, but most are looking at Tulsi only because of her experience and tenacity, to be brutally honest, which we know people like that. Yang is fueled by millennials who won't check in, vote until the last minute because most had decided a year ago to vote for Yang. And this is in reference to Tulsi actually taking some of that attention. There's a lot of cross-pollination between Tulsi and Yang, it appears. When we saw a big uptick in Tulsi's attention, if you go back to the channel, you can actually search for that video and see all the indicators that we took a look at. And we saw that as her attention went up, Yang's went down. So that was kind of interesting to see how closely they're tied in together. But it makes sense to people that appear, from what I'm looking at, to be on the outside of the establishment in terms of what's happening. And even though Tulsi is in government, I just was reading a headline today, and I don't actually pay attention to what any of these people say or the context of anything that comes out of their mouth, but I do read some headlines that pop up, and they pop up in my newsfeed because I do research for these videos. And as of today, which is 12/10/2019, I saw a headline where Tulsi said that even if she does qualify for the next debate, she's not going to participate. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on there. I actually had a idea where if she follows through on doing that, what I think could be super tremendous for her. I'm assuming that she thinks that the DNC is like biased or just corrupt or both. But I think you guys are, if you're watching this, you probably agree with her. I mean, I do at least. So I think that her putting that out to the world could be kind of interesting. Now, from a standpoint of winning, I don't know. So how could she overcome that decrease in attention and awareness that she would get from the coverage of the debate, even if it is biased and corrupt, however whatever your point of view is? I think that if she took some of the campaign money and just called like Yang and Bernie and whoever else she knows and was like, hey, let's do our own debate. Let's pick a mutual arbitrator who is not going to be biased, just like trying to create a fucking spectacle of the debates and not actually understanding what is going on and just trying to create good television, right? In terms of views, but go through and actually talking about what is happening. I think doing something like that for her would be tremendous. That would be able to add a lot of value to her campaign. And if she's able to rope in a few other people, then she could structure it in a way where it's live streamed on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. And in the financial news media, there's a website called say.com where if you are a shareholder of a company, instead of just the analysts asking questions, say.com allows shareholders to ask questions and then vote them up, kind of like they do on Reddit. And then not all management teams do this. Actually, the only management team that I know that does this is Tesla, where so the collective shareholders, not just the analysts that are coming to ask the questions, like analysts are very, they have an agenda, just like the media does, right? And the questions that they ask might be very myopic. Myopic is just short-sighted in the nature of their questions. So when you look at analysts asking questions, it kind of relates to like the mainstream media, where there might be an agenda or a very just like off top, like not thinking past the fucking next 90 days. So if Tulsi used something like this where she could take the collective like questions to understand and get some type of social proof in terms of people voting up the questions, this could be really valuable to her to create a independent platform that is separate from the DNC, separate from the RNC, which I think would be tremendously valuable. I think that this has been independents have tried this for a long time, not what I'm talking about, but just tried to run without any, it's always been like a third, like way off the beaten path type of choice. So if she's able to do this and pull together some more support, this could be really tremendous for her. I don't think that they're going to do this, but if you share this video with them and tell them to watch this end portion of it, this could be some real gold for her and her team, who's helping her out. So make sure you share this video with her. Or if you find value in what we're doing here, like we're really trying to understand what America's thinking, share this video with somebody, but only if you think that they are going to get value out of it. I don't want you to fucking spam people or waste people's time. If you think somebody else is going to get value out of the perspective and what we're doing here, share this video with them. It really does help out the channel, and I want to be able to provide value to that person who watches it. The next question is from Edward Travis. Stolt. I look at it like when Yang explains GDP. The activity is going up, but for the wrong reasons. Like Booty Judge, he getting mad views because he under mad fire, not because he's doing great. I think it's touching on two things. This is in reference to the Instagram ranking video. If you want to check that out, go back to the channel and just search for the Instagram ranking, which is one of the many factors in our power rankings that we mentioned earlier. But the I think we got to touch on two different things in terms of Edward's comment. By the way, first of all, thank you for the comment, and the recurring theme that I see in the comments is negative interest or just negative search volume or activity around a candidate. And think about it like this. So there is and I'll give you an example after I say this, but when you have a boatload of attention, good or bad, surrounding some activity, right? You get this giant spike of attention. If somebody's good and their message is good, this increase in attention has stickiness to it. Not the entire amount, but there's a stickiness to this attention. And attention is the currency of the 21st century. If you have attention, you can raise money, you can have a cause, you can do whatever you want in terms of if you want to meet somebody, you can, and if you have enough attention, you can use that to meet people. So having these giant spikes of attention, even if it is for Buttigieg, who doesn't according to you, is under a lot of criticism. That's still beneficial to him in the sense that if he's good enough, and there's going to be, even if he sucks, like there's still going to be some stickiness to that attention. I mean, you have to be relatively good, but there's going to be some stickiness to the attention. Now, for the example, one of the Kardashian people it just sold, I think, like 50% or 60% of her company for $600 million. So if you pay attention to what they're doing, right? They're ninjas when it comes to attention, and they get a ton of negative attention from the sense that they are just being criticized. But what that does is allows some of that attention to be sticky to them and allowed her grow a company. If she sold 50% of her company for $600 billion, and then that means she's built, her company is valued at $1.2 billion. That's like a unicorn if you were talking about tech companies. So that's pretty tremendous. That's absolutely tremendous, and that's what what I just mentioned in terms of that specific example is probably more people may know of that, but there's been many examples that you could use to do exactly the same thing. Where if you get criticism or some type of attention, whether good or bad, the sentiment around it, some of that attention is sticky, which just means that it's going to stay around. And the increase in awareness, if somebody starts to go through and sell a product or try to get into office or raise money or donations or impact something in some sort of way, that is where it becomes beneficial. So I don't think that there's a tremendous I don't think that negative attention is necessarily negative attention in a lot of the comments that I see in terms of, oh, it's bad because it's just related to criticism. I mean, there's definitely some people that are probably like, F this dude, right? But I do think that is actually more valuable, good or bad in either way. Thank you so much, Edward, for that comment. That was an awesome comment. The next is from SLT. What's good, SLT? I haven't seen one of your comments in a little bit. I appreciate it, brother or sister, if it is a guy or girl. On Pete's rise, this was recently predicted on Rogan's podcast with Tulsi. Interesting. So Zuckerberg is helping Pete, and so are 20 billionaires. Interesting. When we do the donations ranking, by the way, you can check out the channel on that. That is a periodic thing because the data for the donations is only released quarterly. Pete has one of the factors in the donations ranking is the percentage of donations that come from small donors, meaning donations that are less than $200 in per donation. And why is that important? Because something like 60-70% of the American population can't absorb like a financial impact of $1,000 if, say, a car broke down and an emergency happened, where they would have to go on credit. And that's like 60 or 70% of the population. So to not be able to absorb a $1,000 impact for something is pretty tremendous to donate 20% of that to a candidate. right? Or 20% or less. They don't say the dollar amounts, right? The average could be 26 bucks or something. But that's why we use that as one of the factors there. And Pete, actually, if I remember correctly, he tended to have a lower amount of donors that are represented by $200 or less. So that is kind of interesting in terms of what your comment is, and I appreciate that. And then SLT also left another comment. Does this data have, and this is in regards to Kamala Harris, who dropped out of the presidential debate, which presidential bid, which we predicted and we talked about in 5 separate videos before she even did it, and then she did it. Does this data have any correlation with the debates? In other words, did the debates directly affect Kamala's eventual demise? I would say yes. I haven't looked into that specifically, but I would bet that whatever she was able to portray in those debates and or how she treated people in the real world did not translate into people supporting her. There was some drama that I saw in headlines around the people leaving her campaign and talking shit, and we saw just a steady decline of the amount of attention she had. So whatever she was doing, whether it was bad strategy or just nobody connected with the message, or maybe she's just not good enough, that played out in the data, right? The same thing happened with Beto O'Rourke, and where we called that before it happened as well. So this is kind of interesting to watch all this play out, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on what we're doing on here. You can use hashtag Stolt in the comment section, or if you jump over to Twitter, it's actually a little bit easier to get a hold of me because I am more easily able to respond and to respond quickly if you do it on Twitter. There's a link in the description. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.